When I was younger and working as a steel worker, my ex was pregnant with my son. The expenses piled on and I invariably fell behind, and I got my first payday loan to cover my situation. When my paycheck came, I had to pay back not only the loan, but a large interest payment, and this left me with almost no money for the next 2 weeks. I was forced to borrow again, and the cycle continued until I used almost every payday loan place in my city. I have friends with the same story, but I wanted a balanced perspective, so I spoke with many different types of people to hear their story. They all had a different path to getting a payday loan, but every single one had the same thing happen. They needed to keep borrowing from their future to make ends meet. In the mid-2000s, people finally came forward and started to push back against these criminally high interest rates. I was part of a major class action lawsuit against Ontario money marts because they had been charging too much for their payday loans. Similar lawsuits happened in several places and to several different cash advance firms throughout Canada and the US. The case went on for a couple years until they finally agreed to settle out of court. And you know how much I got? I got 2 checks for $5 and 2 vouchers for $5 off my next payday loan. It was laughable. It was estimated Money Mart made $515 million more than they were supposed to by charging interest rates that were too high, and they settled out of court for $120 million. So many people were involved in this suit that we only got $20 each. Money Mart profited $400 million from that crime, and no one was held accountable. They didn't even have to admit that they'd done anything wrong by settling out of court. Some guy steals $50 from an old lady's purse and he goes to jail for a year. The only good these lawsuits did was help push legislation that restricted how much lenders could charge. So yes, they are more regulated now, and the branches charge a more reasonable interest rate. But they are still making all their money by targeting poor people who end up getting stuck borrowing again and again and again. Money Mart even buys gold now. Who do they think is bringing in jewelry to sell? Bored rich people? No, it's always desperate poor people who are forced to sell their jewelry to survive. There are many people who say this is just the result of a free market and they are only responding to a demand. They have a point, and ordinarily I would agree, but is a financial institution that directly targets and exploits poor and working class people just a response to supply and demand? Is it a healthy enterprise? I'm not an economist, and I haven't studied this subject in any depth for any length of time, but the information I have, along with my experience, leads me to believe that they are taking advantage of people, and they're doing more harm than good. Well, it's hard to make anything these days without seeing it through the lens of the coronavirus. This is the next 9/11 because it will change things forever. I can only begin to imagine the social and economic repercussions of this outbreak. It will be felt for years. Many people will lose their jobs, their money, and won't be able to afford expenses, but landlords, bill collectors, collection agencies, and payday loan firms aren't going to stop or even slow down. They will continue to take advantage of the most vulnerable among us. Whew, that was a long one. Thanks for watching, everybody. It really means a lot to me, and I'll see you in the next one.